So, thank you everyone for coming. We're going to get started here in a moment. Just a bit of an announcement. If you are looking for the restroom, through the door right here. Easy enough, just right through that door. You ready? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight for this amazing opportunity to hear directly from our wonderful panel. I don't want to stand in your guys' way. But my name is Tim Horgan. I am the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. We are a non-profit, nonpartisan organization that is looking to help people better understand the world. We do that through speakers programs like this, although we are not always blessed to have members of parliament with us. We try to get some good names, some insightful speakers to join us for conversations on global issues. We also have a monthly podcast. We look to highlight key issues there, and just launched another podcast called Drinks and Diplomacy, the 10 things you need to know about global affairs in order to feel a little more comfortable about coming to events like this. So thank you all for making it out. We also run international visitor exchange programs, which this group is here through. We run both the State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program and the Open World Leadership Program, which that's the program that this group has come to us through. We are working on high school diplomacy simulations as well, so if you have a high school student yourself or a grandchild who's in high school, we'd love to chat about getting those programs into as many classrooms as possible. All right, final thing, we are nonpartisan, so of course anything that's said here tonight is the opinions of the speakers. We take no institutional policy stances on politics or anything like that. We're here as a platform for discussion, and we want you all to take away what you will from this. We like to present factual information in a way that you can trust what you're hearing, but what you do with that information is up to you, how you interpret it. We want to tell you about things to think about, not how to think. So with that, I'm going to invite Rick Menard up from Building Community in New Hampshire. They've been a great partner, a great sponsor, and he's going to say a few words.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Rick Menard. I'm the Executive Director of Building Community in New Hampshire. We're a nonprofit based here in Manchester, and we work with refugees from around the world and help them find their way in America. We help with housing and all the things that people need. I'm delighted to say that we have 2 Ukrainians on our staff. Katerina Nazarova, who's here, who came after the war started and has been working with hundreds of Ukrainians in New Hampshire. I'm sad to say that there are so many here, but there may be as many as 1,000 scattered all across the state. You'll see at the entrance we have a photograph of a party, a New Year's Day party that Katerina and her colleague Lilia Mayeski just walked in, organized in Exeter. We had 125 people here who are happy to see each other, to meet each other, and to feel connected in this place, this strange place. Katerina?
Hello, good evening everyone. It is my pleasure to see all of you. I came here in 2022 as a refugee myself, as my family, and I have a pleasure to work currently as a case manager at BCNH and to help other families like mine to get established here. So if you would have any questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you.
Hi, and my name is Lilia Mayeski. I came 1996 as a refugee, and I'm working pretty much together to help families.
All right. Well, thank you very much to Building Community in New Hampshire for their great partnership. So tonight we've got about an hour, so we're going to try and maximize time. But I'll ask our delegation to just give a quick introduction, name, where in Ukraine you are from and represent. And then we can get into a little bit of Q&A, and then we'll bring in the audience questions as well. So. Yeah, we can show it before and we can show it afterwards. Yeah.
It's almost good evening, or good evening. It's night in Ukraine. My name is Solomia. I'm from Ukrainian Parliament, member of Ukrainian Parliament, member of Security, Defense and Intelligence Committee. I joined Ukrainian Army as a serving in reserve in 2021. Still continue to work very closely with the army, and of course that's my duty, being inside and being outside as a member of parliament. I am a scout for almost 20 years, and I am proud of this because that's what gave me a lot of in my life. Running all issues I ran because I joined the public service almost 10 years ago. That's how I came to public politics and into parliament. And I'm a deputy head to Ukrainian delegation to NATO Parliamentary Assembly. I'm originally from the western part of Ukraine. There's no front line there. Thanks God, but we are neighbors to Belarus, and we have a nuclear power plant 100 kilometers from the border. Lots of my friends are serving. My brother is serving. All my close friends are serving, and that's why we are fully and totally engaged in what's going on the front line in the war in Ukraine.
Hello. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for your time that you came to probably to understand more, to learn more about what is happening in Ukraine. And actually, this is our mission to give you more information. We just came from Washington, D.C. We had a meeting with Congress, with both chambers, with both parties, with some requests from our side, what we need for now, desperately actually need, even for not now, for yesterday, with all the weapons, with all this, lifting of this restriction to strike on the territory of Russia, and etc. We are open to answer to all your questions. I think we will try to provide all the information that we have about Ukraine for now. But my name is Igor Cherny. I should start with this. I'm a member of Parliament of Ukraine. I'm a deputy chairman of the Committee of National Security, Defense and Intelligence, and I also am head of the delegation, Ukrainian delegation to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. So this is my scope of work. Everything that takes everything about defense, everything about, I hope, our future in NATO. My background, it's my first convocation in the parliament, as all of us, yes. Before this, I was in business. I'm also a veteran of this war. In 2014, I was a volunteer soldier. I took part in combat action. And as Solomia said, I think all of us have some stories about this stage of this war, and some relatives who serve in army, or wounded, or even killed. Me personally, I lost my quite close friend. My nephew was injured a year ago in mine, and still in hospital. Some friends now in hospital after they were wounded. So we know about this war through our own stories, not from the newspapers or from media, and we really understand what we need on the battlefield, and that's why we try to convince people here that it's really important to continue supporting of Ukraine.
Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen.
First of all, let me thank you for your interest in Ukraine and for spending this evening with us. I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. My name is Anastasia Radina. I'm a member of the Parliament of Ukraine, and I'm chairing Anti-Corruption Committee in the Parliament of Ukraine. I've been doing this for 5 years for now. For many more years before joining the Parliament, I was also working on promoting reforms in Ukraine, rule of law reforms, anti-corruption reform. That has been a considerable part of my career. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, I'm talking more about weapons than I am about the rule of law reforms. Why? Because half of my family are now serving on the front lines. My brother is serving, my father is serving, my grandfather's family. They come from a city which is now occupied. Sadly enough, my grandfather passed away a few months ago without having an opportunity to actually see his extended family at least one more time. And I just hope and pray to be able to do everything possible and impossible so that my son, who is now 4.5 years old, would not have to fight in the war should we not be able to bring about just peace in our generation. So we really just must do everything possible and impossible to not let that generation of Ukrainians inherit this war. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming to see us. It's a great honor to be here and a great pleasure to be in New Hampshire in general. I think it is very important that we came here because a lot of public speakers and members of the parliament never get out of Washington, D.C., which is oversaturated with information about Ukraine, and probably those people who give speeches about Ukraine themselves, which is why we are delighted to be here. My name is Roxolana Pilasa. I'm a member of the parliament and chair of the budget committee. But first and foremost, of course, I'm a citizen of Ukraine. I live in Kiev, in the capital city. My parents live in Cherkasy. It is a central Ukraine. It is relatively safe apart from constant threat of bombardments from the Russians. So basically they have, because it's a central Ukraine, and all the missiles are flying over central Ukraine because whatever part you need to reach, they have air raid alert every night. And every night they go to the bomb shelter just in case, so that if their home is hit, they do not die under the rubble. It's very hard not to. Of course, comparatively fine if you compare to those people living close to the front line or to those people who are under Russian occupation, which personally is something that terrifies me the most on a personal level, which is why I do everything that depends on me to support Ukrainian army in their fight against the Russians. So I'm married, and this is that. Now, the motivation was quite great, to be honest. I just thought that if we got injured or something, I need to be able to access him in an emergency room. Not romantic, not fun, but I'm still married after 2 years. And I actually hope to bring my future kids into peaceful and prosperous Ukraine, which is why I do the best to advocate for everything that Ukraine needs to win this war. But please do ask whatever you feel interested in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I see that, well, for those who are in the room and see me hustling around and looking at my phone, it's because We're having some trouble with the online audio, so I hope people can hear better now. I will be looking at my phone, not because I'm watching the Red Sox game or looking for the latest updates on the prisoner swap from Russia. But if you do have questions or anything like that, we do have a chat function on our website, as well as council@wacnh.org. So I want to start off and just get a little bit of a sense from one of you, from all of you, as to what your experience here in New Hampshire has been. I know you've been here since about 12:30 last night, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but 2 a.m., okay, even later. But what are you guys hoping to get out of this experience, and what have some of the things you've been up to today then?
So, first of all, I'll start with, I understand that Ukraine is very far from US, and we will be lucky if each of you remembers the map of Ukraine and understand where Russia is attacking Ukraine. But why? Because when we see the discussion within the US, why you need to support Ukraine, and why don't understand why US is still trying to be involved or is involved in Russian-Ukrainian conflict, war, because maybe it's a local conflict, why we should pay attention to that Eastern Europe map, and so on and so on. I want to say that it's not about the Russian-Ukrainian war. It never has been about the Russian-Ukrainian war. I'm always returning, because that's my country, that's what is very painful to me, back in 1994, when we had the agreement among Russia, US and Ukraine about the UK, US and Ukraine, when we were we disarmed actually ourselves from the one of the largest nuclear strength. We were the third in the world after the USSR collapsed. Instead, we got actually the security guarantees. And you see what happened with security guarantees. From the one side, Russia attacked and started their occupation 10 years ago. Crimea was the first, that's our peninsula in the Black Sea. And we remember the reaction of the world saying, start a negotiation. Maybe it's okay to just do violation of the international order and law, and we unfortunately started the negotiation with the Russians. Then, in 8 years, they started the full-scale invasion. Believe me, no one could imagine the scale. Even what we heard and read in the internet. It was impossible just to physically imagine that they could start bombing the whole Ukraine and crossing the border from the north, south, east, and so on and so on. So, going back to this 1994, as we have chosen the US as a partner to rely on and to be the leader and to keep the leadership actually of the Western coalition states. I would say that's the moment when we have to keep the justice and to say that we have chosen NATO's umbrella, not Russian, not Soviet. We are not the empty hole or dark hole or the behind the curtain stain on the Polish borders and Romania and Hungary. That's that's a huge state actually. And Kyiv was the first before the Moscow, established 300-400 years after. And now when we see that not only Russia actually is aggressing and attacking, that's about the coalition, that's about Russia, that's about Iran, that's about China, that's about North Korea. That's how they built their system of the, I would say, ecosystem of their armed forces, their weaponry, their military production, and that's how they are attacking. And we should respond. Otherwise, we see how Russia is ready to fight for every inch of our land, and see the lack of of the weaponry on the front line. It's not about we don't have enough will to fight. You probably remember, I will remind you how even US counted on us that we will stand for 3 days. I remember US officials saying, okay, we're ready to help your prime minister or president to lead the state, and he will be, somewhere else, but not in Kyiv, not in Lviv, not in Ukraine. And we were smiling. Are you okay? What are you talking about? And thanks God, President State, we are all stayed in Kyiv, and we gave that fight. And I do remember how only in a couple hours, or even afternoon, reaction keep fighting, that's an invasion, we will, it was nothing, in their words. And it's very painful. We started the campaign with a request, please close the sky, Ukrainian Sky 2022, in order to protect not even the critical infrastructure, but to protect civilians. And still the campaign, is ongoing, because we asked tanks for more than 6 months, then we asked F-16, and finally in Ukraine. But if you ask whether they will show the significant result, I would say no, because they cannot hit their targets or the jets, Russian aircrafts, which are carriers of the bombs, and which they are using against our cities, and Kharkiv, first of all, which is in the east. That's 1 million citizens, one of the biggest cities in Ukraine. So that's why be very careful saying that it's only about Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Russia is paying attention on every movement of US, seeing how much you are strong, how much you support, because that's about your strength, that's about the coalition partner strength, and that's how the NATO coalition is ready to say yes or no to Russia. Because before Ukraine, it was Moldova, it was Georgia, it was even Chechnya, when everybody kept silence. And unfortunately, the NATO summit in Washington, probably you heard or you read, this July is very painful for Ukraine. Because it's again about not invitation. We don't say we will join NATO tomorrow, because we want to involve you on the front field. We just want to see that you are ready to be with us all, and you giving us a green light. That's a very political message, first of all. At this time, again, no. So Ukrainian people are asking, why we cannot use your attack on Russian territory, because we want just to destroy the Russian logistic. Why the decision is very strange, because it looks like Ukraine has to win, but Russia not to lose. And that's the main, I would say, sentence we have to keep in mind, on which side we have to be and who support. That's my probably long answer. Sorry for that.
And just for you guys, people are having trouble hearing, so all the mic.
Okay, I will try to answer to your question about how I found New Hampshire for me. I was thinking when Salomia had a speech, and I agree with all this evidence.
I'm sorry for the speech.
I thought that I feel safe here. And when you cross the border with Poland, and when you come to Warsaw, because this is only one way how you can get somewhere, probably Moldova plus, I don't know, I've never. So, and you, when you cross this border, you feel that you are not in war anymore, at least for some time. And I don't know, is it proper word, but I'm jealous to those people who can live their lives, their whole lives. Because for our generation, probably it's too much to have two revolutions. 2014, first wave of this war, the second wave of this war, COVID-19, and so on. So when we can live our lives. And this is like not, it's not a complaint, it's just because we are alive, we are not wounded. Soldiers in the trenches even much more worse condition, much more worse situation. And I have a lot of my friends who are now in army who spent a few years in 2014, 2016, and already plus two years plus of their lives they are in army, which is not so easy to be there, even if you are not in the front line, the first line of this front. So really, this is my feeling when I come to some peaceful cities or peaceful countries. That it's good to have or don't have these problems like war. You know, I think all of us, when we were a child, had this conversation with our grandfathers that say everything but not to war. So we don't want that war repeat. And for us it was like empty words. We didn't know what is war. And okay, yes. Probably you're right, probably not, I don't know. But now we really feel it, that what is the war and how it influences on all of us in the Zaporizhzhia region or in Lviv or somewhere, because we have, all of us have friends or relatives there in army. I'm from Berdyansk, Zaporizhzhia region, and I was born in this city, and now this city is under occupation. And my parents were forced to leave at the first day their hometown, and they live now in Kiev. And you can imagine when you spent all your life in your town, and now you lost your home and you cannot come back to your home. How is it? And well, of course, I hope that one day we will come back to this. So this is my perception or my feeling that I have.
Okay. So I'm going to have one more question for you guys, and then we'll open it up to the audience because I want to maximize your time as well. But one of the things that is a big conversation here in the U.S. around continued support for Ukraine, certain people, certain voices in the United States will say there is no path to victory, or there is no plan for victory, that we're just talking about, a blank check forever. What does victory look like for Ukraine, and what is the pathway to getting there?
I'll try. This is actually not here. I actually have to ask you to try to return to February 2022, when the estimation as to whether Ukraine will be able to withstand Russia or not was Ukraine will probably keep up for 2 weeks, and then Russia will occupy, and then they would be in Kiev like after week first of the invasion, and then the government would be in exile, and Ukraine will be done with. But brave Ukrainian people beat that prognosis by 2.5 years. We were actually able to reconquer half of the territories that Russia got since the start of the full-scale war, and we think we are still capable of winning. We changed our conscription legislation. We changed our conscription legislation sure, we know it for a fact, that we have people willing to fight, and we have new military units formed, sitting there in reserve, just waiting for the weapons to come in, because sending all these men into battlefield without proper weaponry, well, that would not be a due level of respect for the human life. So we do still have this potential, and we are very much afraid of this discussion of, oh guys, why don't you just negotiate with Russia and settle down, and the whole world could then return to just doing business as usual, being worried about China or Iran and not having to worry about the war in the center of Europe. And we know from history that this approach of pushing Ukraine to make peace with Russia, it simply does not work. My colleagues referred to that already. We tried that in 2014. We were forced to not go into further war, to have what we called Minsk agreement. We never recognized occupation, of course. I mean, we never recognized that these territories were not part of Ukraine. They are. But we were forced not to continue fighting for these territories because we haven't had proper international support, we haven't had proper military support, financial support, etc. Where did that leave us? Where did that lead us? This lead us to February 24, 2022, when Russia was trading with the world for 10 years, right? Earning money, using these profits from their oil negotiations with Russia, because Russia deceives us. Russia has been part of the Budapest Memorandum guaranteeing our safety. Did they guarantee anything? No. We understand that even if we are somehow forced to negotiate right now, that will, how do we enforce results of these negotiations? How do we make sure Russia keeps its part? There's no way to do it now. So we have to continue, and we have to bring ourselves to a situation when we can negotiate on our terms, and when we understand how we enforce results of that negotiations. In our understanding, this is Ukraine's membership in NATO, because anything lesser than that have already been tested and didn't work. Moreover, it is in just terms, because this is not only about Russia. There's no way of just settling down something in Ukraine and reach a lot of dictators out there would be contrary, that you actually can attack another nation, that you actually can win, you can secure results of that. Where would that leave the generation of our kids? Not in a place where we would want them to be. So yes, answering your question, winning the war is being able to get our territories and our people back, securing results of this deal, and bringing Russia to justice for all the military crimes that they did.
Questions in the room or online, please wait for the mic just so that we can make sure we get a good recording and everyone can hear. So, Nicole, I'll go to you first.
Good evening.
And introduce yourself.
My name is Nicole Marshall. I live in Manchester, New Hampshire. Assuming what's probably a small underground movement in Belarus against the head of state there, who many would say is a dictator and many would say takes his orders from Moscow. It's very possible that Belarus could be, in several years, in the same situation that Ukraine is today. Do you have any thoughts about Belarus?
I'll start first to Salomia. Belarus now is even worse situation because it's like a satellite of Russia already. So and controlled by Russia. The idea of Putin was 20 years ago to establish a united state. Two states in one some organization. And till 2020, I think, when was the last elections of Lukashenko, Lukashenko had not so strong, but at least his own position, which allowed him to resist of Kremlin. Now, I don't think that he has some power to resist, and he under the control of Kremlin totally. So I think for now, at least till the Kremlin, or till we have, or Russia has Putin's regime, never will change for Russia.
I want to say that EU, US, UK, Canada, Ukraine, plus dozens of states do not recognize Lukashenko as a president after the last elections in 2022. That's the first thing. The other one, Belarus is the part of the union state with Russian Federation. Probably the only thing they're going to have still in common, that's a currency. So the economical system, then military, armed forces system, they are all together, all connected. They get their territory. By the way, I want to show you the map just to understand the geography. And Belarus on the top, in the north, where they have the airfields or military units, bases. That's Russian Federation, and you see the front line. Yes, over here, the green light, that's the territories which were occupied by Ukrainian armed forces, and the Crimea Peninsula, that's what we are talking about, and the warship Moscow, probably you've heard about, yes, you know, it's a quote. But we have in Ukraine, by the way, the Belarus regiment, Kastusa Kalinovskого, and I believe the only guys who have the military corps can be a threat for Lukashenko. But Lukashenko can fail only if Russia loses. Otherwise, more political, unfortunately, neither political nor military, any approaches won't help Belarus because it's totally 100% under one union state.
Right. Yeah.
Hi. I think you said, Sharon Altmeyer, I think you said that a key to victory is membership in NATO. And I'm curious what your thoughts are. How likely are you to win and Russia to surrender without bringing in the NATO countries and China, Korea into the war?
If I may, my message has been, I'm sorry for probably not being very clear, that membership in NATO is a way to secure peace. We have never asked, and we're still not asking for anything even closely resembling boots on the ground. So we're not expecting American people to fight, but we say in order to secure peace in Ukraine longer term and basically peace in the world as well, we need to grant Ukraine NATO membership. And with this, I pass the floor to Igor Chernin, who's the bigger expert on that than I am.
Well, when we were talking about invitation for Ukraine, we even put the stress that we are asking for political invitation, like a signal that this 33rd chair will be booked for Ukraine. We don't ask to get us now in NATO, because we understand that till this war will end, we will not be able to become a member state, because it's lead for Article 5, etc. So this is it was like a request to have clear perspectives for Ukraine as a part of NATO, because again, we understand having this aggressive neighbor for centuries, not for even decades, for centuries. We understand that in 30 years, 50 years, I don't know how many years, they will make a new attempt to invade in Ukraine, if Ukraine will be a gray zone between Western world and Russia. But again, this is like a secure peace, but not only for Ukraine, but for whole Europe. End this war by victory of Ukraine, and then Ukraine should become a means that security umbrella actually will work for both sides, not only for Ukraine by NATO, but not only from NATO to Ukraine, but for Ukraine to NATO, because we already have proven that Ukrainian army is a strong army and can protect and can, and I think Russia should think twice if he will want to make one more attempt in the future. So I think this is the win-win situation when NATO have strong army on its eastern border, but again after this war will end. This is what we're talking about. And this invitation is not for becoming a member state before the end of this war.
We go to Steve. He's had a question here for a minute.
Hi, Steve Upton from Manchester. You all speak English reasonably well. It seems to me that your English, each of you, sounds more like American English than British English. I wonder whether any of you learned English before you went to universities. And I wonder to what extent English is being taught to Ukrainian children and adolescents before they get to universities today.
Thank you, sir. That's very kind. But whenever I'm asked about my English, I honestly answer that I just watch a lot of Netflix. But yes, I graduated from high school in 2010, and my English classes, I had English classes there. They weren't so good, to be honest. So everyone, probably I will speak for all of my colleagues who speak English well, we did a lot of self-education, whether in the form of studying abroad, traveling abroad, taking part in new reading. Currently, I would say that there is a trend in bigger cities like capital to speak to your little children in English, so that they understand and speak some English before school. But I'm not an expert, so probably Anastasia, who has a child, she could tell us more.
So I actually learned my English in high school in Kiev. Oh my God. I wanted to say how many years ago, but that's just even painful to recollect, more than 20 years ago. And I think I will follow parenting advice from my mother. I was lucky enough to have good English classes at school, but I also did ballroom dancing, and my mother was very strict with me. She said, if you don't feel well enough to do your English, you probably do not feel well enough to do your ballroom dancing. And that was it. And this is how I got to learn my English. So it is actually possible to do this in high school in Kiev at least, without being educated abroad.
But you studied in the capital in high school. I studied in a provincial high school.
And then I read the Forsyth Saga for like 10 times.
Well, I will not bother you with my story, but it was a long story, not not every time a love story with the English, because it was several attempts how to prove it by different ways. But I would like to say about our civilization choice, because the language issue is a problem. It was a problem in Ukraine, because there were a lot of clashes between should we use only Ukrainian language or Ukrainian and Russian language, and this divided our nation and having this choice or not choice. I was born in totally Russian-speaking city, town. I was born in the Russian-speaking family, but it doesn't mean that if I spoke Russian that I'm pro-Russian. No, we have a lot of people who speak Russian in our trenches, in our army, and who gave their lives for this country. My parents, who spoke all their lives Russian, now try to speak Ukrainian because they hate Russians. And actually, there are no questions Ukrainian and Russian. There are questions Ukrainian or English. And we have a lot of programs, and then we have even law about, and this is about our, as I said, civilization choice, that we are a part of Western world, not Eastern world. And I think, we were a part of Europe, and actually 10 centuries ago, Kievan Rus was one of the biggest and probably most powerful countries. It wasn't a country, yeah. There are no countries this time, but at least, so it was part of Europe. But unfortunately, during the last 3 centuries, we were under Russia, and they tried to steal. It's not good English. To steal our history and our culture, and try to convince you that this is like just a part of Russia and always was a part of Russia, Ukrainian territory. It's not true. And now we're making home in Europe, in Western world, and to English as a second language.
And I'm so thankful for my English to my teacher from the school, and she is probably 80 now. We remain to be friends. My classmates are friends with her. We're calling every year on the holidays with the congratulations, and that's the best memories, because we are friends, not only teacher and a student. And it's widespread in Ukraine to start study languages from the elementary school. Usually it's English. In the 5th form, it could be German, French, so the second foreign language. And for us, that became a normal, very normal things. But that's a school, and that's my teacher.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for your time. My name is Nicolette Reed. I'm from Evolutions in Business out of Massachusetts, a neighboring state. And my question is, have you been able to, or has it been any easier for you to get the parts and components that you need to help you with the war, for things like drones or aircraft or other things like that from the US? Has it been any easier for you to get those components? And if it's been difficult, would that greatly help you?
civil person? I mean, or as the country, the U.S.?
So how easy is procurement for your country from the U.S.?
Again, as who? So because if we are talking about the weapon, so just only country or state can buy something in the U.S. and we do this. We do we buy some kind of weapon here, but again, it's probably more about rifles or some small armament, because we cannot buy Abramses or HIMARSes or something like this, because it's so specific weapon. It's high technology, if you want, and you cannot buy it just in the shop. That's why it's quite difficult to even have in mind to buy something, especially what we need. And what we need is, if we're talking about armed vehicles, Bradley, one of the best armed vehicle ever, because I had a conversation with a crew of Bradley, and one of those guys said that my Bradley was damaged several times, but I'm ready to use it again. I mean, someone new, because nobody was injured inside. Yeah, we lost this Bradley, but nobody was injured inside. And you saw this great movie or video when Bradley just destroyed in total Russian tank T-90, which is the best. So something we can buy. Again, receiving licenses from ITR, from Congress, and other thing. And actually, our colleagues from the Congress help us a lot to move forward this bureaucracy much faster. But again, you cannot just buy Bradley or others.
I know that we have some problems, by the way, with the optical different stuff and so on, because it can be of double usage. That's why your custom has the problems with the permission to leave the state and to be sent from the state to Europe, whatever, to Ukraine. But I know at the same time how many your American guys help us with that, just trying to find any ways to send it to Ukraine. Some of them now unfortunately have a problem with trying to help with that, some of them not, but what they do that.
And just so you know, we, along with the New Hampshire Office of International Commerce, live streamed a presentation about procurement from Ukraine, so you can check that out on our website. Chris.
My name is Chris Reed. I'm from Dover. I've led investigations of war crimes, crimes against humanity, chemical weapons uses. I want to follow up on something that you mentioned, Sonia, which is the restrictions that are being placed on you. I know you need the weapons, I know you need the money, but you're getting them with restrictions in terms of, for me, everything that you get is a defensive weapon. Every place that you hit is a defensive action, but I think there's a distinction being made that is hurting your ability to actually win the war. And Anastasia, you mentioned something as well. What was it? Oh, yeah. I'm wondering about the people of Ukraine. Are you getting enough help in terms of battlefield evidence, investigating war crimes? But more importantly, are you getting help with mental health and dealing with the trauma that you and your children and families are going through?
I'll start with the mental health issue. I don't know how it is even possible to overestimate the scope of the mental health issue that we're about to have. And this is obviously about people who are fighting. This is obviously about people who were in occupation, but frankly speaking, this could be about the whole population in Ukraine. because so many people are traumatized in so many different ways, and it would be just impossible to scale one trauma against another. Few of the not obvious traumas are also families being separated for many years, kids being separated from their families, just small kids who learn to be in shelters, who learn to hide, who learn what air alarm is. I here have to bring the example of my son when he was 3 years old on a particularly rough night when we had to spend half of a night in a basement, and then we kind of came out of the basement too early, and he heard air defense system working. He was 3 years old. He told me, "Mama, I want to go back to the basement so I don't have to be afraid." And this is like not something you learn you want to hear from your 3-year-old. This is just to illustrate again the scope of that trauma and because this is about roughly 35 million people.
First of all, I want to say that our first lady is running the program about the mental health both for civilians and military as well. And I think that's, that's establishing the culture to take care of the mental health. Because after Soviet Union, we didn't know how, what this, you have to just work 24/7 to survive, and then what does it mean mental health. And we just starting this a new process, especially for military, because for guys that's something they don't want to share with civilians, with their wives, only with the brothers or sisters in arms, and they need very special approach. The same with civilians, we are refusing to acknowledge and to recognize that it's a problem, because one night you just can't wake up because you're out of your mental ability to wake up, even despite there are sirens and so noisy outside, shootings and so on and so on. But about your comment on the defensive, there is one issue. If you're talking about the defensive weapon within the state, that's one moment. But it means that they have to pass the border, and we have to defend our destroying the cities, villages, kindergartens, and so on and so on. The other, what we are asking, we want to strike the military objects outside, and still, even in 2.5 years, Ukraine is trying to behave itself very human, I would say. With the reason they're losing their kilograms, bones, they are raped, even men they are raped, They can be beheaded on the video and put it on the internet just to see them realize unequal conditions. And believe us, that's why it's hard to be polite all the time.
Hi, and thanks for coming. My name is Judy, and a beautiful Polish name, Falski. I have 3 questions. One, why was Crimea taken over so easily, as we Americans see it? 2, we also thought that the border of Poland was at the eastern edge of that lavender. And yet now I kind of understand that Russia had invaded or occupied that area of Ukraine. And then finally, what is an oblast? What is an oblast? Region, that's what I thought. The lavender area? No, that's white lavender. Yeah, in there. We thought that Ukraine was Ukraine to the eastern edge, and now we kind of are under the impression that Russia had owned that area. So that's my 3 questions. Oblast is a region. All right. What about Crimea?
So
will try to explain briefly what we had before 2014. Since the collapse of 1991. During this, how much? 23 years, we had several attempts of Russia to provoke us with island Zmini or other things, Tuzla, not Zmini, Tuzla, and even we had some kind of rebel in Crimea in 1993 when they tried to, it was a attempt, tried to take control on peninsula. Russians, even in 90s, even during the Yeltsin presidency, considered Ukraine as the probably not a part of Russia, but the sphere of interests. So, like, because they tried to explain to Western world that actually this is artificial state because it was a part of Russian empire, it was part of the USSR, and now it's like a mistake when the Ukraine is independent. And having this in mind, they tried to take the control by the soft power, influencing in Ukraine through journalists, through media, through pro-Russian parties, through Russian language actually, yes, and even through the Yanukovych, who was a former president and was so pro-Russian that during his presidency we had on the top level positions like a Minister of Defense person with the Russian passport, with the Russian citizens. And you probably understand that their work was to destroy the army. And when we faced in 2014 with this invasion of Russia and took the control of the state, Ukraine, after former President Yanukovych just left the country, we understood that there is no army. Just 6,000 of persons were at this moment prepared to start some war actions. 6,000 on the whole country of 50 million people, because all these years it was the campaign of destroying the army. Actually, some was sold, some kind of weapon was sold, some kind of weapon was destroyed. People was the number of soldiers was decreased several times. So we faced with this invasion without army actually. That's why we had a lot of volunteer soldiers, and I was among them. I before this I didn't serve in the army. I just understood that at that moment that we should do at least something, and we enlisted in these new battalions of volunteer soldiers with now we have quite good equipment for our soldiers, but there we didn't have good uniform, and I was wearing in the British uniform at this time. So that's why we didn't have enough capacity to do something.
My name is Phil Dunlap. I live in Hopkinton, New Hampshire. I felt it was very unfortunate that the matter of aid to Ukraine became so politicized in the U.S. It's frankly embarrassing to me as an American, and I feel like I should apologize to you for that. But let's assume that there's sufficient aid forthcoming in the future. Let's take that as an assumption we hope will come true. The adversary you're fighting, Mr. Putin, is probably a sociopath he has no regard for human life. So my question is, given his willingness to sacrifice untold thousands of Russians without any regard for, his just sending the soldiers in, how do you get this to the point that he would concede and come to some terms? And just to add to the question, I guess, is having a World War I style trench warfare to push that border back is probably something that will be very challenging to do. If there's a possibility that American and European aid will not come with stipulations that you're not able to attack over your borders to attack the origins of some of the military actions coming at you, maybe that will help. But I'm just curious, can you tell us a scenario under which you think Putin might finally concede?
I would say the death. Yes, because I don't believe in any peaceful protest in Russia, in any opposition in Russia. Because the great opposition stopping on the question of Crimea is Ukraine and Russia. That's first of all, and we are very strict and very concrete in this issue. Probably you know how, by the way, the all opposition who's really opposition, or the former, if we would say, KGB officers who left Russia, they were killed because they knew the truth, because they worked with Putin as well. And by the way, we have to look at Putin not just as a military man, he's not military. He is an officer of KGB. He is an officer of KGB and Federal Security Service. You have to understand how he's planning and looking at all this map and targets he wants to reach. Yes, that's the first thing. But at the same time, if we're talking about his attitude of his life, the question will be for all of us, for you guys as well, about the system he built. And who will win, the doves or the eagles, in that fight within the Kremlin towers. The second question you asked about the weaponry. We had success with the Russian fleet in Crimea, in the Black Sea. And I adored the operation when our guys hit their base in Crimea, and we showed that we can move them out of the Black Sea and to be very careful in the Black Sea. That showed a very asymmetric response, by the way, and that's the success. And that's finally when all Ukraine, together with the partners, made a decision starting to destroy their fleet with the help of military partners' aid. That means that we can have success on the land as well. Just let's be honest with each other and understand what plan together we have. So I think we can propose that success, but it's together with the partners, and they will again to find and Ukraine. And again, Ukraine, they want Ukraine will win, or they want Russia not to lose. That's for me. That's a big question for the last 2.5 years.
Just 2 points that I would like to add. First, war, it's about resources. So to win the war, you have to increase your resources or to cut resources of your enemy. If you're talking about our resources, we rely on our partners, and this is about the amount of weapon that our partners can provide to us. Again, have in mind that Russia increased their capacity and their production several times. So it's quite difficult to move forward with the ratio of 1 to 6 on the battlefield with their shells. how to cut the sources of your enemy, Russia, sanctions. And actually, they already feel the consequences of this sanction or the influence of these sanctions, and they actually, reading all these papers of Russia that their GDP increasing or something like this, it's bullshit, because the 30% of their budget spent on military production, which doesn't have added value, and you produce it just to be destroyed on the battlefield. What the sense of it? So it's not about the growth of GDP. It's about burning money in this war, and they also have limits of their capacity. They already have problems with their so-called welfare. No, I mean this welfare special fund that they had as their own savings in their country, because all other assets were frozen and they cannot use it. So this fund also is closer to not zero, but so we can do this, and we can force. It's all about money. We can force Putin to stop this war, because when he will face with real problems with his economy, he don't care about his people. It's not about their wellness, their good life. It's about the economy which can finance army or not, or doesn't, or cannot finance. And if we're talking about sanctions, he still has a capacity, has a possibility to sell oil and gas to other countries. Russia doesn't have any sanctions on their nuclear energy, and very well earn money in different countries building new reactors of nuclear power plants. So there are so many ways how to push on the economy, how to make this economy drop down, imposing the sanctions. I think these two main tools, sanctions and weapons for Ukraine, can bring us the victory. And the final point about this, it's not a myth. It's true that they don't care about their manpower, their soldiers, and we have a lot of stories from the battlefield when they. When Russian soldiers doesn't have options, they will be killed at any case, because heading to our position or making to the Russian position, because they just beg without any results. But first, they already increased one more time their salaries for their new recruits, new soldiers in Russia. What does it mean? That they have problems with mobilization. There are not so many people that won't be killed on the battlefield. So they also have a problem with mobilization, and understanding this, and actually understanding their behavior on the battlefield, we can say that they also have limits of it. I also saw some position or some explanation that Russia cannot be defeated because they defeated Napoleon or Hitler or somebody else. But you should understand that Napoleon or Hitler was defeated with a big part of Ukrainians in these armies. And actually, Ukrainians suffered more because during the World War II, and because on our land was all these clashes and all these battles from western part to eastern part. And actually, without Ukrainians, I'm not sure victory and in this war. So don't overestimate Russians and don't underestimate Ukrainians.
I think we have time for one last question. I want to sneak one more in. Sophia, I don't know. How do you?
Good evening, добрий вечір. Thank you very much for coming. It's a long way to be away from your families, but also from the very, very important jobs you all have, is to bring Ukraine to victory. And the question I have, again, as for every day that you are enduring the war, you see at the end the light of the tunnel. So for each of you, the question is, for the next 3 months, what is your personal goal and what is your work professional goal to get us Ukrainians closer to victory? Thank you.
Who wants to go first?
I will start with a personal goal. I hope to be able to keep my son in Kiev through the winter. This is a challenge because with the level of destruction that Russia caused to our energy system, we are expected to have like probably 6 hours of electricity per day, and that would be a success, and this depends on Russia not destroying remaining infrastructure, which we cannot assume, because why would they stop? They will probably try to hit. So yes, on a personal level, I just hope to be able to keep my son by my side and not to send him somewhere to Poland, where he would grow up literally being an orphan because I don't have a family member to send out with him. So I'm going that deep into personal detail just to show the level of motivation that I actually have to make conditions in Ukraine livable to the best of my abilities. On a professional level, that's severalfold. First, I said I talk about weapons more than I talk about reforms, but we actually have a reform agenda to do at home as part of our negotiations on joining the European Union, as part of the frameworks in which we support, in which we receive assistance from partnering countries. We actually have a reform job to do at home on which financial support is being conditioned, so that would be great part of the work to make sure this all is accomplished and support is flying in. And we of course will continue talking to our fellow parliamentarians around the globe, making the case for continuing support of Ukraine, because on that field everything is not rosy and shiny. We are very much worried what happens come January 1st when, for example, the generous package that has been voted by Congress just a few months ago expires, and we do not have any strong commitments as to how the support is to be continued, because the need for the support obviously gets to be continued. That's a lot of work. I'm wondering how to actually be able to do all of that simultaneously, but we somehow were successful in doing this all simultaneously for past 2.5 years. We were actually successful in both waging a war and doing reforms that eventually led to the decision of European Union to open NATO membership negotiations. So, yeah, we're capable of doing things.
I was just thinking about my personal goal right now, and I realized that my goal for the next 3 months is to remain as healthy and as sane as possible, to be able to do what I have to do in the parliament, because my committee and I, as the chair of the budget committee, we are responsible for fulfilling one of the conditionalities that was set by the U.S. presidential administration for Ukraine to receive parts of direct budget support that they are giving, and this is a reform of the institution called the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine. The closest analog in the US would be the Congressional Government Accountability Office. So this is the institution that controls government and analyzes the efficiency of public funds usage. In this case, also the public funds, the usage of American taxpayers' money, because GAO is in close cooperation with our Accounting Chamber of Ukraine. They train our auditors to audit the use of American money to the highest international standard. But on the side of legislature, we need to implement several amendments to the draft law, to the law on the Accounting Chamber to increase the demands and requirements to people who wish to work as auditors. We want to establish a open selection procedure for political appointees in this accounting chamber, so they are all to go through integrity checks, and we find the best and what is important, the most honest people to do the audit and to control the government on behalf of the Ukrainian parliament. So yeah, this is pretty much what I will be doing in the next 3 months on top of adopting the budget for 2025 for Ukraine.
Well, I will try to be brief. I have a list of my tasks for probably not the whole life, but for some period of my life. And in this list I have one not crossed line. I wanted to become an officer, not a soldier, but officer. And I was a soldier, and I'm a soldier. And I postponed several times this, and I now I'm working on my list, my commission probably, yeah, to the military university for the courses of officer. It's my private goal. My professional goal, of course, to receive yes on the request of lifting of the restriction to use attackers on the territory of Russia.
I'm smiling because that means if you're a soldier, I can give you orders.
Not today.
24/7. Probably I'll go to frontline. I miss the frontline. That's my answer. Short, quick answer to your question. But you know, I'm stuck with your question about Crimea. Why it was so fast. And I think it was a huge mistake from Ukrainian side and from American side as well, because that was a big Obama's mistake not to intervene in that process when Russia started the occupation. Last year he made a statement saying that Ukraine didn't look like as it looks like now. But it's not about Ukraine, it's about the international order and borders. Not about the mood in Ukraine, buying in Ukraine. That's about the laws we want all to respect. And I think that's how it cost, and we were promised that we'll take it back according to international order and laws again. But it's impossible. Russia never plays the fair game.
Great. Well, please join me in thanking our wonderful group of members of Parliament. We really appreciate you guys giving us your time. I know you'll be here for another couple days. For anyone here watching online or here in the audience, if you've not signed up for the community welcome reception on Saturday, it'll be just down the road at Stark Mill Brewing. We hope you'll be able to join us that Saturday at 1 p.m. There's still some space available, so please do hop on our website and register for that if you are available. It'll be a great opportunity to just come together, support these wonderful leaders, talk with them more personally and less formally. But thank you again for your time, for your insights. Thank you everyone for joining us and for watching online as well. Have a great rest of your day, and glory to you, God.